What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with another edition of Unleash, the weekly panel discussion show. We did return from a bit of a layoff there. So between all three of us, had some special circumstances going on. Jay took a well-deserved vacation. Well, sort of. You still worked. Ben got sick. Thank you for not dying on us. Thank you for getting better. We are happy to have you here, as healthy as you can be right now, and screw COVID for that. And of course, I have screaming babies, and I was just tired. So here we are. We're back, and it is time to get down to the business. First of all, the jack of all trades, who has mastered them all, undefeated against global pandemics, Mr. Ben Duffy. Ben, what's going on, brother?
Oh, I'm doing all right, man. I'm undefeated, but definitely took me to the limit there. Hey, we've been saying it on this show for a year and a half. COVID is no joke. Be careful. Be good to those around you. It's real, and yeah, the percentage of people that actually die is it's fairly low, but between losing the entire rest of your life and just losing some of the rest of your life and your quality of life is only a difference of degree. So, don't underestimate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, the man who anchors the panel every week with the stats, the facts, the figures, and the numbers, my man, Jay Petrie. Jay, what's going on, bro?
I feel like being undefeated against pandemics is a good thing because you have one defeat and it's all over. It's like boxing. You lose it one time and game over, man. So speaking of one, I guess one is the way we can transition. There is a stat of the week that actually blew my mind. Throughout the week, we had heard that the UFC Vegas 34, yes, the Cannonier Gastelum card, whatever the heck people want to call it, was very close, and every single betting odd line was very, very, very tight. No big super duper favorites. No 50-1 favorites or some nonsense. And every fighter on the card was a 2-1 or closer. I think the only one that was 2-1 was Chase Sherman, who lost. Now, the reason why it blew my mind, that's never happened before. That's never happened in UFC history that we've had a fight card this close across the board. So, yeah, one. It's a hell of a thing that the matchmaking was this close or whatever it may be. But how about that?
You got to think, too, that was more by accident than anything else, because the way, when we've talked about this a million times on this show, how busy the UFC schedule is and how at a lot of points they're just kind of picking up with leftovers. Who hasn't been booked recently, who's not injured, and just pairing people together and just figuring out after the fact. So for a card like this that's close across the board on paper to come together, pretty much a small miracle at this stage. So but let's talk about that main event. Jared Cannonier defeats Kelvin Gastelum via unanimous decision. An interesting fight in a lot of different respects, and I'm torn between whether or not this is something to display how high level Cannonier is, or are we seeing the last of Gastelum as a true contender? Like, which one is it, gentlemen?
I'm gonna say that it feels weird to say this about a man who's still not even 30 years old, but Kelvin Gastelum was starting to feel a little bit washed to me. He's always going to have a kind of innate toughness and heart to him that's gonna make him not an easy out. But in terms of like actually threatening top 10 fighters, those moments are becoming fewer and further between, even in these fights where he's fairly competitive. I thought Cannonier looked good, but I didn't see anything out of him that made me want to see him fight Israel Adesanya. I mean, I want to see him fight Israel Adesanya just because he's one of the only guys left who hasn't done so yet, and Adesanya himself has been calling for it. But I don't want to see it because there's any particular challenge he presents towards him. This is just Cannonier, who's still kind of on the rise against a Gastelum who really is starting to feel like a spent force. And again, it feels horribly unfair to say that about a 29-year-old man, but you got to go by what you see in the cage.
I mean, it's really fascinating that Jared Cannonier is far older, and he's the one that's on the rise of the two fighters. Like, this is a guy who started at heavyweight and went, I can do this, and got smoked by Sean Jordan and beat Cyril Asker or something. So that wasn't anything of note. Dropped down to 205, got beat up by Teixeira and Dom Reyes, and then we dropped down to 185. And he's the guy of the two fighters that is his trajectory is going up. You can tell how a fight goes and how the public perceives the success for what they want of the next fighter. And you didn't hear much of Cannonier's next for Adesanya. That's it. Let's do it. Let's go. That he's the rightful contender. I didn't feel that. I mean, not just because he's on a 1-fight win streak now, and his last loss is Whitaker, who in turn got smoked by Adesanya. It wasn't that. In fact, the best sounding fight I heard and suggestion and the matches to make and all those things would be to put back together the matchup that was supposed to be on this card, which was against Paulo Costa. Which, if you fight a top 10 guy as a replacement, and the next fight for you is to fight the guy you were supposed to fight, that means you probably didn't raise your stock very much. But on the other hand, you got to win. You got to win fights. And I had this discussion with a friend of the show, Casey Leiden, on Twitter, briefly about how some fighters are ranked despite having a ton of losses. Robbie Lawler is a top 15 guy, despite the fact he hasn't won since he beat Cerrone in 2017. Now, okay, he's lost to top guys, but he hasn't won a round, like a single round since then. And he's a top-ranked guy. Now, in Gastelum's case, he won against Ian Heinisch, who's a top 15 guy, using his wrestling, which I don't know where it was in this fight, but it wasn't where it could have been, considering Cannonier's only major weakness is getting taken down 8 times by Glover Teixeira, 7 times. That's his one. That's it's oh no, small knives are my one small weakness. No, it's seriously. You should have taken him down, but he didn't. And that shows to me a fighter who has plateaued, not just physically, but mentally from a fight IQ standpoint, because there were corrections that could have been made to help him further go on and win the fight, but they weren't. And King's MMA is a smart team. Rafael Cordeiro is an excellent coach who was probably telling Gastelum, hey, do this thing, don't do that thing, don't fault whatever it might have been. And the adjustments weren't made like, say, we were talking about on our last show, Angela Hill didn't make the right adjustments to change anything and beat Tisha Torres. Gastelum is at that point. And that's really tough for a guy who should be in his physical prime right now. But I don't know what to make of him if he can't figure out how to make the middleweight limit. So I feel like Gastelum needs to take a couple things. He needs to take time, soul surge, whatever it may be, and he needs to take a lighter opponent, like Kevin Holland, I guess. I don't know. A low top 15 guy that is also on a losing streak to get somebody back on track. I just see the days of Kelvin Gastelum riding his glory of the Israel Adesanya fighter are over for me.
You know what? I'm kind of all over the place with this one because I don't want to take away Jared Cannonier's flowers for what he did, because Kelvin Gastelum even this version of him continues to be a tough out for anybody. Like, you're not just going to go in there, aside from the Jack Hermanson fight where it's like the quick heel hook, aside from some sort of, dare I say, fluke occurrence like that, you're not just going to go out there and show out on Kelvin Gastelum. No one does. No one ever has done that, just gone out there and just styled on him. It simply doesn't exist. But like you said, Ben, I didn't see anything from Cannonier that suggested that he was an improved version of anything we had seen before. In fact, I saw some things where that he didn't do, that he had, where he previously was excelled at. I know he said he didn't do the leg kicks too much because he was afraid of being taken down. But that's a situation you just gotta face. You gotta go in there and use your most powerful weapon against someone and see where it takes you. So I'm still so you're just gonna eliminate your best weapon when you get up to when you're fighting another top tier middleweight. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Also, Gastelum is, I don't want to say he's washed necessarily, but I think we're seeing the culmination of several different things. One, The main thing being that he has not been the same since the Adesanya fight. That was an epic fight. That was an all-time great title fight. And he took a tremendous amount of punishment in that. Both of them did. It just looks like Gastelum was worse for wear on it. Like he has not been, mentally been there. And he physically might have healed up, but I think something in him has broken since then. His very next performance, the Darren Till fight, it was quite some time later, but he came out looking really flat. Then the Hermanson fight, then the Ian Hines fight, which he did win that one. And then the Whitaker fight where he just got outclassed the entire time. Like he just has not seemed like he was firing on all cylinders. Be it the Adesanya fight, be it the fact that he has been a professional fighter for quite some time. I think his first fight was in like 2008, 2009. So despite the fact that he's 29, he's got, he's got over 10 years of worn tread on the tires. Then you factor in the weight difference. And I think that becomes a huge story in Gastelum's career. That's a huge chunk of who he is. He struggled to get the takedown against Cannonier, someone who has historically been taken down a lot, and that's been the path to victory against him. Well, Glover Teixeira is a much bigger guy than Kelvin Gastelum. Like if you're fighting, if you're unable to stop the takedown of heavyweights and light heavyweights, that may not translate to someone who's a natural welterweight. It just may not. I believe I've told this story on this podcast before. If not this one, I'm sure another one that I guested on or something. I attended a media lunch with Gastelum. This was right before he was supposed to fight Whitaker in Australia. And we were at this nice restaurant in Beverly Hills. Food was fantastic. Me and Kelvin Gastelum had the same plate, like literally the same plate. We're standing beside each other in like the buffet style line, piling up food on our plate, and look at each other and laugh and like, hey, I'm not making welterweight either. And we shared a little laugh on that. We're like almost exactly the same size, like same height, same body type, everything. Like we are like a clone of one another.
And you're not trying to fight no Jared Cannonier tomorrow.
Exactly. So when I think of the times that I've been at media days and stuff and interacted with UFC middleweights, I'm standing in front of Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa and Anderson Silva, and I'm like, hell no. Would I ever in my life? I'm standing in front of Vitor Belfort. I'm like, would I ever in my life dream of fighting a man this size? Hell no. But Gastelum has been doing that for some years now because we have the same size plates. So I think if he, and I'm always one to say that fighters should not be cutting weight and they should just fight at their walk around weight. The difference is he's not at his optimal best at his walk around weight because clearly the diet is not structured. I think if he were to retool his nutrition, and it's going to take a boatload of discipline, but if he were to retool his nutrition and restructure his lifestyle in some ways, because he told me himself, man, he loves his grandma's cooking. He told me that himself on multiple occasions. So I'm like, if you just sacrifice grandma's cooking and you get that weight down, and you could probably make welterweight, you probably could, and that might give you a better chance. Welterweight division is certainly filled with killers, and it's not going to be any easy matchups there. But this was a guy who at an unhealthy point arguably beat Tyron Woodley before he won the belt. Like, this is a guy who is proven to be a top tier welterweight. There's a lot to unpack with this fight, and I think Gastelum and Cannonier still have question marks hovering over their heads based on the results of this fight.
Do you guys think, and I hesitate to say this because I know I just mentioned about Cordeiro and his greatness, a camp change would help him structure and challenge himself in a way, because maybe he's been complacent at Kings because he's here and he's a top 10 fighter. So what are you going to teach me? Maybe would it help to go to an AKA type that'll beat the brakes off of you to, go like, I don't know if the Marinovics are still doing something, but a different drastically different style of approach of camp and training. Do you think that would be the thing?
Maybe. The thing is, I don't see anything technically wrong with what Gastelum is doing. I think it's the approach where it's like mentally just not firing at the right times. In addition to being outsized.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really, really bad combination. Maybe he does need a camp switch, and that is certainly no knock on Kings MMA or Rafael Cordeiro. I mean, we could not speak enough praises to that coach in particular and that gym for all the great fighters that they have produced. But things still run their course. You know, CeeLo leaving the Goody Mob wasn't because Goody Mob sucked. It's just because he moved on. You know, I think we can look at examples in other facets of life and say, hey, sometimes you just move on to the next stage. So that's certainly a possibility. But I think first and foremost, it's got to be nutrition, strength, and conditioning. The combination of those two. There is a key to unlock the welterweight Gastelum, and it's time to find that key and stick it in the lock right now. I think that's really the only hope he has to remain a top contender. All right, so gentlemen, I think it is time to move on. Oh, Dolce. Oh, you big fan of that bro science. All right.
Didn't he actually help Gastelum? I think he was. I think he worked
with a lot of guys. He probably did. He probably did, because he was like, no, that I'm thinking Nate Marquardt. When I remember seeing some embedded or something where he was using Greek yogurt instead of sour cream on stuff, and I'm like, that sounds nasty. Like, you can't substitute Greek yogurt for sour cream, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, fellas, it is time to move along to shallow cuts. This is where we have a bank of a couple questions, and one of us gets the honor of dishing out the questions to the other gentleman on the panel. Since we don't have a guest today, we'll bestow that honor upon. Yeah, I don't know. Should I do it for our man who can't take vacation? Yes, Jay. It's your job to assign the questions. I mean, since you like to work.
I do like to work. I love it. Let me tell you, I'm very versed in all the topics that were going on here. There's no crap, I don't want this question. But I'm actually going to pick a question for somebody because I feel like their perspective on it might be good, even if they weren't quite paying attention to the fight. So, Mr. Walker, did Cheick Kongo's win over Sergei Kharitonov impress you this past weekend when he hit the choke after a very grueling and interesting fight they had?
Yeah, I certainly was impressed. Like, this is for several reasons. One being the fact that Cheick Kongo is 46 years old.
Maybe
46 years old. Maybe he might be 64. We don't know if that number has been reversed or not. Cheick Kongo has been a high level mixed martial artist for what, like, almost 20 years or something at this point.
Yeah.
We're approaching 20 years. I've been on record saying that I am not a fan of Cheick Kongo. I think there was once Mike Fridley and I did an episode of Beatdown where we both spent like the first 20 minutes like, yeah, Kongo fights are boring. Like, oh, I'm not into it. Like, I can do without. And despite all of that, like, we can talk all the trash we want about the entertainment value of a lot of his fights, but the man has consistently delivered on the biggest stages. Then this time it was really, really exciting. This was fun. I had a good time watching this fight. I was very impressed. And Sergei Kharitonov, yes, this isn't prime, Cain Velasquez. This isn't even a current version of Stipe Miocic or somebody that we think of as the upper echelon of heavyweight. But Sergei Kharitonov has been one of the top names in the division for a very long time, despite the fact that he hasn't fought in the UFC. To go in there and do that against him at any point, bravo. Cheick Kongo deserves all the credit for a very impressive performance.
If you want a bonus stat of the week, Cheick Kongo has more wins in Bellator than he did in the UFC.
Yes.
Doesn't feel like that. It's like how Shogun had way more UFC fights than Pride fights, but we seem to
think of him as a Pride fighter. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
I'm also impressed that he didn't tug his shorts the whole time. He did not. No tugging shorts. No knees to the
No
groin.
fouls.
Like he did this a foul-free performance. Impressive.
And speaking of a foul-free performance, Mr. Duffy, there was a foul performance, but it was foul-free between Mr. Parker Porter and Chase Sherman. That was a heavyweight fight at the UFC Vegas 34 card. It was way up on the main card. If you remember, it was third to last over ranked fighters like Alexander Pantoja, Brandon Royval. It's a pattern that we've seen over the years, recently especially, that an unranked heavyweight fight is on that card. So I guess I'll ask a question to you that we've kind of bounced around before. Why the hell was that fight up so high? I mean, why? What point? What's the deal?
It is one of the weirdest ingrained beliefs the UFC seems to have that still informs things 20 years down the line, that, you know, the casuals, they just love the heavyweights. You know, I don't get it. Like, casuals don't love the heavyweights. Like, there is no fan so casual that they see Parker Porter, they're like, oh, dude, this guy's gonna kick some fucking ass. Like, you know? Like, nobody is that casual. But you always got just the unconscionable heavyweight slobber knocker, like, way up the card. Now, this was near and dear to my heart because I was the only person out of 17 in the Sherdog Pick'em League that correctly picked Parker Porter, because I know now, I've learned that Chase Sherman is not good at fighting. He's like the American Marcin Tybura. You're like, well, he's a 6'5" dude and he's not real fat. He must be an okay fighter, and he's just not. But I do like it, because if Parker Porter is going to get that John Jones rematch that he's been working towards for like the last, 9 or 10 years now, it starts here. He's going to be the man to welcome John Jones to the heavyweight division.
What a way to welcome Jones to heavyweight, man! Porter, the contender Porter, suddenly top 5 Porter.
The greatest difference in leg circumference in ever any UFC fight in history will be Parker Porter versus John Jones.
I certainly wish they kept that stat on the books, because can you imagine that? It's like it takes 6 of Jones's legs to match.
Oh, well, I mean, Jones's waist is probably 32 inches. And you're not going to tell me Parker Porter's
leg is
each? Yeah.
Hey, so side note, pound for pound, what are we ranking as far as the coolness of the name Parker Porter? That's got a serious comic book vibe to it, man.
It's got a comic book vibe, or like when you're a little kid and your parents got you like a tie from like JCPenney. That was like the fake designer name on the back of it.
See, I like the name. It kind of flows
Parker
well,
Porter.
But people kind of make fun of him though. Like they'll call him Parker Porker or Porker Parter or whatever. I'm
Portly
like,
Parker or something like that. Yeah.
I feel for the guy, because I mean he just beat Chase Sherman, a guy who is considerably more ripped. And what was Duffy? You do the who would win a marathon in the division challenge, and Sherman would probably beat Porter, but Porter did that. And another weird stat, that the two combined for the 3rd most significant strikes in UFC heavyweight history. Like
it's because anybody else would have finished the fucking fight. Like, if you land 165 strikes in a heavyweight fight, someone is snoozing.
Definitely going down.
Yeah. You've destroyed someone's front leg, so now let me just stop kicking it. Like it's.
Yeah, to quote Rampage Jackson, as he once said about Forrest Griffin, like, Chase Sherman couldn't bust a grape. Like,
I mean, hey, he was the BKFC champion. That means something. So is Beck Rawlings, and she's a pound for pound great. Anyway, I guess I'll finish off the shallow cuts before we totally go crazy. And I'm going to change the script a little bit.
All right.
Because I realize the only thing I want to talk about is that I feel like Guida won the Mark Madsen fight. So I'm going to skip that. And instead, I'm going to talk about a question we removed from the show. Because at Bellator 264, the week before, when we were going to cover the show, but we were on vacation, Gegard Mousasi fought in the main event, and he fought John Salter and overwhelmed him and won a 3rd round stoppage, just like a take him into deep water and drowning type of thing. So the question, are there worthy challengers for Mousasi in Bellator? And that's a great question, I'm glad that you asked that. It's a very handsome question you asked. Mousasi is in a very strange situation, because remember, he's not that far removed from arguably losing a decision to Lyoto Machida, to arguably losing a decision to Alexander Shlemenko, to very he lost the decision to Lovato thanks to the grappling. If anybody grapple heavy wants to take him on and take him down and frustrate him such that he's on the ground looking up at the referee going, or he looks at the camera and goes, that kind of face, you can still do that to Gegard Mousasi. Even after all these years, he's still got some flaws in that. So I could see like an Austin Vanderford decide to try and do that. I don't think it's going to work, though. I don't think it's going to work the whole time. I think the challengers for Mousasi are up. Who doesn't want to see Mousasi versus Rumble, Mousasi versus Romero, Mousasi versus, I don't know, Bader. I don't want that one because we know how that's going to happen. But a sloppy brawler versus a Mousasi, I'm telling you, I think there's some gold to be mined in those hills. But until then, I guess we're going to have the busted arm Paige Van Zandt's husband and or more successful in his MMA career than his wife, Austin Vanderford, next. So, yeah, I there are some, but give me a 205.
Man, but you know what's going to happen? Like they're going to put him at 205 because I know he's been actively campaigning for that now.
Yeah.
Bellator loves to see their chance move up and down the scales. They're going to put him up against Phil Davis, and he's going to get wrestle fucked.
That is exactly right.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like they're going to make a big deal of it. It's going to be all over the commercials and on Showtime. Check it out. Phil Davis versus Gegard Mousasi, and then he's going to get wrestle fuck the whole time. And it's just like, wow, you guys just squandered a great opportunity for some entertainment. That's bound to be the next thing because that's such a Bellator move to make.
Like, for instance, making Douglas Lima fight Gegard Mousasi.
Case in point. Like that's what's going to happen. So
that's exactly right. You are the nail has been struck.
All right, fellas, let's move things along to our swing or miss here. So we've had a couple of times within the past week that a 50-1 favorite has like 50-1 underdog or favorite or whatever the betting terms. You guys know what I'm talking about. That the sports books have put that for a fight in the last week. Logan Storley, Dante Shiro, and Kayla Harrison, and what was her opponent's
Jenna
name?
Fabian.
Yeah, Jenna Fabian. I didn't want to mispronounce the name and say she was pretty and look like a dumbass. So anyway, now with odds that crazy, should those fights like that even be booked? Should a commission even allow fights like that to take place?
Probably not. Probably not. And it's possible to look at the Storley versus Skiro fight and go, hey, Storley had a tough time with it. That was a good matchup after all. But you can't judge these things based purely on the results. MMA is an unpredictable enough sport that you're occasionally the 50-1 underdog will win. Sometimes they'll give the favorite a tougher fight than you would have expected. You can't judge it based on that. I don't know if it should have been sanctioned or not. I mean, you will not find a bigger Logan Storley fan than me. I think Logan Storley might be the second best welterweight in Bellator right now. But Logan Storley is probably not going to hurt your 50-1 underdog too badly because peak Logan Storley, we know what it looks like. The real question isn't should this be sanctioned, but why should we watch it? Like if Bellator is rolling this out for us, and think of all the people that Logan Storley could have fought this past weekend. Like Andrei Koreshkov fought 2 weeks ago. Like, why couldn't Koreshkov and Storley have fought each other? The whole thing about Storley was that he was the best welterweight not to be in that 2018 Grand Prix. So the one thing he has going for him is that he hasn't really fought any of the rest of the top 10 except for Yaroslav Amosov, and he gave him a tougher fight than Douglas Lima did. Why would you sign Dante Skiro to just come in and fight Logan Storley? Like, I think it's on Bellator to explain to us why we should care about this fight more than whether it should or should not be sanctioned.
Like, Jason Jackson was in the building.
Yeah. Like, literally everybody in the top 10 except for Yaroslav Amosov is out there for Logan Storley to fight. I'd love to see Logan Storley fight Ed Ruth. Logan Storley told me he thinks he's the best Logan Storley once told me directly, because I was asking him about Ed Ruth dropping to welterweight, and he's like, I'm a better MMA wrestler than I am a regular wrestler. He says there's nobody in Bellator within my weight range that I can't determine where the fight takes place. And I was like, including Ruth? He's like, including Ruth. I want to see that now. I want to see him fight Neiman Gracie. I don't want to see him fight Dante Skiro, and I don't care if Skiro made it closer than it should have been. You can't judge it based on the results.
If anything, that should be, praise Skiro for that. But then also you could look at it the other way and saying like, well, Storley had reason to undervalue the man in front of him and almost paid the price. And we've seen that play out multiple times throughout combat sports. A big underdog is overlooked by the favorite and they pay the price as a result. So fights like that shouldn't be made, even with those odd occurrences happening from time to time. Jay, what say you?
I really struggle with this because, like, for instance, the Kayla Harrison fight, in which I believe on DraftKings on the broadcast, on PFL's broadcast, they had the tail of the tape, and the bottom line were the betting odds of the Harrison Fabian fight, and I think it was 40-1, 30-1, or 40-1. Either way, such prohibitive odds that that anyone who knows how to read those should go, oh boy, it isn't a compelling argument to feature something like that. And here's my structural issue from a commission, from a sanctioning standpoint, where I believe there actually is an argument. Commissions historically have not sanctioned bouts that are deemed not competitive, or they're deemed there's a too much of a difference in skill between fighters. This has happened in the UFC. Remember, Khabib was supposed to fight Paul Felder, and then the New York State Athletic Commission said he shouldn't fight Paul Felder. There's too much of a disparity in skill and rankings. I mean, rankings or what have you. And then they threw in Ally Quinta. So this isn't a unique incident. Now, I will say betting odds should not be a determining factor in how a commission looks at a fight, because betting odds aren't set by the promotion. They're not set by the commission. They're set by the books open a line and the bets go where they go. But if a fight is this lopsided and everybody knows it, and the commission and reasonable people go look at this, go, no, this isn't a fight, then it has to be on the promotion to either try and pitch the drama that you mentioned, Ant, the let's look at the upsets. If PFL were smart, but they don't want to be because they want to push Kayla Harrison, they would show Steven Seiler as a 20-1 underdog hitting an upset over Islam Abadov a couple of years ago. They would show PFL historical upsets to say, this isn't a foregone conclusion. They'd make a story out of it or something, but that isn't what the PFL wants. Kayla Harrison all the way to the top. They're riding her to the moon, I think is the expression that kids use nowadays. It's I'm not in here. Here's where it boils down. And Kaposa, Grabaka Hitman on Twitter said it very eloquently. These matches that are so lopsided aren't compelling. They aren't interesting to watch because most of the time they're going to turn out kind of like how you think they are. There's no drama about them. There was no question in anybody's mind, any reasonable person, even Jenna Fabian's parents were probably like, yeah, we're not going to. Like, this was the kind of fight where Kayla Harrison came in as a 40 to 50 to 1 favorite over a fighter that was 4-1 and a former kickboxer with long legs that got taken down instantly, did not land a single strike. Richard Mann, a stat friend of mine, calls this getting punked, where in which a fighter does not land a strike or a takedown attempt or a submission attempt. They zero across the board. And I believe Jenna Fabian was blanked across the board. And it wasn't fun to watch. It was a 4-minute execution that ended, and we go, okay, now what? One of the things that I have learned from you, Ben, over the years is the what have I learned feeling. I take that with me. What have I learned about this fight? Nothing. There was nothing I'm going to learn, and I feel like I'm ranting too long about this whole situation, but Kayla Harrison's about to fight a 3-1 fighter. You thought she was a favorite now? Holy crap. Taylor Guardado may be a 60-1 underdog. Like, we're talking ridiculous historical odds that are about to be in this fight for Kayla Harrison to fight a blown up bantamweight who fought in a bantamweight tournament in Invicta, lost, and is 3-1 as a professional fighter. And I don't think these matches should be sanctioned.
I don't think anyone could have said that
together.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have said it any better, gentlemen. Like that's, and I want to point the finger in so many different directions here, but of course, mainly the promotions take the full blame for this. I mean, this pursuit of the highlight reel, I think is the problem. You're trying to build a star, so therefore let's just throw bodies in there and you just execute said bodies and we'll put a highlight reel together and then maybe somebody cares someday. That just seems kind of reckless in my opinion. I don't know. I've always been compelled by actual fights that you don't know what's going to happen and you just watch it and you see, and like Ben always says, you learn something from it. We learned literally nothing from that young lady getting absolutely smashed.
No, and we saw this coming down the pike as soon as they threw the lightweight field out there at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
We saw this bunch of 3-0 and 2-1 women. We're like, there's literally nobody here that's going to be close to a 30-1 underdog to Kayla Harrison.
At the same time, though, I mean, there just isn't quite the talent pool either, too. So I don't know. We're gonna end up talking in circles here because there are a lot of reasons why, but still the promotions need to be responsible here. Let's not book executions.
And here's the thing, in case it comes across like this, I like Jenna Fabian. She's a long, tall kickboxer who can boot you in the head. She is a natural 155er. There are so few of them in the world. But this is about the worst possible style matchup you can imagine for a long, rangy kickboxer who has legs that can get scooped out like they did. And there was no way up ever, So you almost feel for her. Like you feel like, okay, they had the city kickboxing story and, she's in a great camp. She's going to be able to figure it out. You saw that fight. We watched that fight. It did exactly the only thing that I was surprised about. It took as long as it did, and I think that's on Kayla.
Oh, fair point there. All right, fellas, let's keep things pushing here. We're going to move on to that time where we flavor our food. So break out your seasoning salt, break out your paprika, break out your cracked pepper. Perhaps throw a little butter on the pan and ask that age-old question: how's Taste My Crow? Ben, I'm going to begin with you. How's Taste My Crow this week?
Oh man, let's take a look at this card. What did I get? I got a bunch of stuff wrong. Oh,
I think you did. I think actually you and I did pretty darn well for the UFC card.
I did all right. I guess I'm having a little crow over the Josiane Nunes versus Bea Malecki fight. It's not as though I was a huge believer in Malecki. I saw her on Tough. But I just figured if she can make 135 and not look like death warmed over on the scale, not look like a scarecrow walking into the cage, the size difference is going to be too much against someone in Nunes who's like a little tank of a bantamweight. And even knowing that she was a decorated Muay Thai fighter, I just figured Malecki would just be too big for her. She just tag her coming in over and over again, rinse and repeat. But no. I had to learn again that a height advantage does not make you harder to hit if you have no head movement and your head is just straight up and all you do is move it straight back, because Nunes walked in and just tagged her with the same overhand left over and over again. It was miserable to watch. And in hindsight, having watched tape on both women, I should have seen this coming. Like, you would think I would have learned from people like Stefan Struve that just being tall does not make it impossible to hit your head. But yeah, I'm eating crow about this one. I don't know if Nunes has staying power at bantamweight, but she's going to get at least one more fight, and I didn't see it coming like this.
All right, good one there, Jay. How's Taste My Crow this week?
It was very Struvian. Was Bea Malecki's performance. So. I like Jenna Fabian. No, I'm kidding. I didn't pick that. I couldn't say that one. However, You know, we ragged on this earlier when we were making fun of the heavyweight fight that had pillows for hands because you landed 160 significant strikes and your opponent didn't go down. I don't know what it is about Chase Sherman that I believe that he can be a roster fighter. I'm not saying a top 50. I'm not saying a ranked fighter, a fighter worthy of being on the UFC roster. That he can separate some wheat from some chaff, and then the Andrei Arlovskis of the world apparently keep him grounded. Oof. Anyway, I saw Parker Porter. I've seen him fight. I know what he can do, and I didn't expect that he would replicate the same performance he did against Josh Parisian in kind of grit out a tough round and then just pick it up and be the fresher fighter. Didn't see that happen. And it isn't just because I've seen Chase Sherman fight 5-round fights before. BKFC is 2 minutes, so that's not the same comparison. You can't do that at all. It's what I don't know what it is about Chase Sherman. It is like he is like my anti-Tabora, to use Duffy's reference, because I will believe in him when I shouldn't believe in him. Unlike you, Mr. Duffy, who will not pick a Tabora fight. I will pick a Chase Sherman fight. Be like, he can. Andrei Arlovsky is 144 years old with about 190 miles on him. Something's going to land and he's going to fall down. That's just Chase Sherman. He's wild and reckless and he throws hard kicks and he's going to set up an overhand right with a leg kick. That's my mentality. There is my thought process about it. But he can't seem to beat a heavyweight. Just straight up. Like his only wins, I think, Duffy, you touched on this on your recap show on Sherdog. His wins are against Ike Villanueva, a light heavyweight for a while. Rashad Coulter, wasn't he a middleweight at one time? Damian Grabowski, I don't know what he's up to now. I think he's a big guy, but he's over in. Oh no, he went to KSW. I think he retired. Anyway, there's nothing there for that. So Chase Sherman is 3-7. He has one more win on the UFC than Parker Porter, and Parker Porter's had 3 fights. So I'm off the Chase Sherman train, and I take that crow with what's a Mississippi seasoning? I don't know what kind of seasoning is in Mississippi. Salt, just a little salt, a lot of salt.
That's a state that I avoid for obvious reasons. So let's
because it's hard to spell, obviously.
Obviously, all those S's. I don't know what to do with myself. My House Takes My Crow comes courtesy of the fight that Jay declined to comment on, and that is Mark Madsen and Clay Guida. The result didn't surprise me. I certainly expected Madsen to get his hand raised. I was just shocked by the effectiveness of Guida throughout a lot of that fight. Like this was a showcase match for Madsen. This was something he was intended to go in there and absolutely steamroll a beloved veteran and kind of ascend to a certain level of notoriety there. I mean, this was a co-main event of this event. So this was the purpose behind it. Did not play out that way. Still though, I am very high on Mark Madsen as a lightweight contender. The way he beat Guida, choosing to strike with him for the most part, it reminded me of Daniel Cormier defeating what's your man's name? The anarchist.
Jeff Monson?
Munson, yes. That's what it reminded me of. I remember watching that fight and not being too high on Cormier because like, oh, he outstruck Munson. Like that's not that big of a deal. But he is fighting out of his comfort zone, and that is a big deal. So still high on Madsen, just so surprised that Guida did as well as he's did. So my crow doesn't taste that bad this week. All right, fellas. So with that, we are going to move on to perhaps the greatest title segment in all of media history. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons, where we share something that surprised us or ironically did not over the last week. Well, I guess 2 weeks now since we took a bit of time off. Jay, I'm going to start with you this time. What's your I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons moment this week?
Professional Fighters League. I can't quit you. I've been trying. I've been writing. You ain't calling. It's just not. I don't know how they keep doing it. Maybe like to follow this along with a Chase Sherman argument, it's the snake charmer, I guess. I don't know. I have no hopes for PFL as a legitimate MMA organization. I'll say that flatly, without any hesitation. I know what you're doing, PFL. I can see it. It's not that opaque if you think you're being sneaky with what's going on. So here's the deal, man. Before the PFL card that we have maligned about Kayla Harrison being a 50-1 favorite, the other fighter that was supposed to fight Taylor Gordado, the woman who is now going to fight Kayla Harrison for $1 million, the woman who's about to lose to Kayla Harrison for $1 million, is that Larissa Pacheco, the one theoretical hope that the promotion had. I don't think it's a hope because they want Kayla to win. The one possible fighter that may be able to dethrone Harrison, even though she had lost to her twice, is Larissa Pacheco. And why? Is because she seems to have found her power, her lightweight frame, her welterweight frame now, her whatever she may have had. Because Kayla Harrison is 11-0, and I believe she has 9 finishes. And the only person she hasn't finished is Larissa Pacheco. So in theory, the one fighter that could go, let's go all the way, and I can do the thing and get $1 million would be Pacheco. Nope, she missed weight by 2 pounds. And as we know in these tournaments, which is I'm down with, but I hate the idea, is that she was thrown out of the tournament altogether. And that, again, that's the right call. It's a tournament. You have to make weight. It seems silly that a big guy like me would say you have to make weight because what? No, you're a professional. That's part of your job. If I had to make weight as part of my job, I'd damn sure do it, especially if I'm going to make $1 million theoretically, if I do a really hard thing and do something nobody ever's done before. But you got to make weight. Like, granted, people can say she lost her ability to lose to Kayla Harrison in the finals. But still, there is a big, hefty payday for making it to said finals. The purses aren't 1 million, you're out. No, I think the number 2, the runner-up, gets 250. I don't know how the heck people can afford this imaginary massive purse where they handle like $17 million a season in bone or purse money alone. I don't know. So she threw away her biggest payday this year because of, I don't know what the deal is, but you gotta make weight. You gotta. She was a bantamweight. This would be like if Kelvin Gastelum went up to light heavyweight and missed weight. And I 50-50 on that. Anyway, I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons.
Very good one there, Jay. I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. I was just all over the place on what, because it was spoiled for choice. I mean, in fact, I'll just do a sampler platter of what I'm not surprised by this past week. So first and foremost, Jared Cannonier wins a UFC main event and then says, I'm broke. Doubles down on those comments on Ariel Helwani's MMA Hour and pretty much explains what he's talking about and injuries in cage and whatnot. And hey, they like to get paid like elite level athletes. So there's that. Can't say we're too shocked about that one. Alistair Overeem wondering why he wasn't going to be fighting Fedor. Well, it's because he's going to be fighting Rico Van Hooven for a glory title. Whew. Wow, we'll get to that one later. Yeah, we'll get to that one as the time approaches. But we're gonna go ahead and give a little extra love to noted African American fight icon Michael Chandler, who has stated that he previously stated that he is not going to get the COVID vaccine until it is FDA approved. It is now FDA approved, at least the Pfizer one. Today on Twitter, he doubled down and he is still not getting it because it's his choice. So if you are looking forward to packing into Madison Square Garden in the near future to see him fight Justin Gaethje, make sure you book refundable hotel rooms. Make sure you have other plans set to go, because if it's not called off, I won't be surprised. So there we go. That is my sampler platter of I'm not surprised, Mr. Falcons. Gentlemen, I
want to hear what Ben has to say first, though.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, yeah, that's a golden opportunity right there.
Well, I mean, as long as we're talking about COVID, obviously, I attended UFC 265 in person 2 weeks ago. I missed last week because I had COVID. I am vaccinated. You know, if you listen to this show, you know I got the shot back kind of early April, and you know, typical of people who get the breakthrough who've gotten, like a breakthrough variant. I was miserable for about a week. I did avoid going to the hospital, and I'm back to, I guess, about 85% now. I'm up and about. I'm testing negative for the virus itself, but I'm tired. I'm short of breath. If I don't force myself not to, I will sleep like 12 hours a day. It's miserable. But I keep coming back to something I saw at UFC 265 because something that made news, last week is, of course, that Saul Soliz, former head coach at Team Punishment, two-time coach on Tough, very associated with Tito Ortiz, and then later Chris Cyborg, and generally regarded as the godfather of Texas MMA, passed away from COVID. And when I was at UFC 265, I was on press row and turned around and took a photo of the front row and posted it on the Sherdog Twitter, just as a sign of kind of, some of Houston's best and brightest coming out to support Derek Lewis. In the photo I took were Ike Villanueva, Mike Jackson, Jeff Neal was there, what up DFW, and Adrian Yanez and Mana Martinez, who are, of course, were Saul Soliz's top two students and his two UFC guys right now. And, that picture is now going to haunt me forever. Like, did they pick it up the day that I got it and pass it on to him? Did they pick it up from him? I have no idea. It just reminds me that, this is a small pool that we swim in. And, people like, Michael Chandler, who were just, banging on their high chair and saying, I don't wanna. They are affecting the, people that in the sport that you love. I shouldn't be surprised. But I am just a little bit that people just still will not get it through their heads.
Very, very well said. RIP to that gentleman. So I didn't have the pleasure of meeting him or getting to know him at all. At least I can't recall a time where I at least knew he was in the room. But clearly someone who has greatly affected our sport and will be missed. So RIP. Fellas, looks like we're back on the train here doing our regular show. And that means it is time to talk about the upcoming fight. So this Friday, PFL 9 is taking place. The main event is going to be between was it Brendan Loughnane? I'm totally going to screw that up. And
Khabulaev.
Yes. I got to get these names down. So we got that going on. We've got the Tough 29 finale, which is lumped into the ESPN 30 card as well, taking place for the UFC. So out of all these fights, out of all the bundles of fights, excluding the main and co-main events, anything in particular you're looking forward to?
Our silence is telling. Duffy, please take it away.
I mean, I will be excited to see Ricky Tercios fighting for the Tough, tournament win at the UFC card on Saturday. I got a soft spot in my heart for the guy. He is just like, I think I've said this, he's been like studiously avoiding me ever since he got out of Tough, just because I don't think he trusted himself. Like, not to say that he was in the final. I don't know if either of you guys watch Ted Lasso, but he really is like Danny Rojas. He's just like fighting his life. He's just like this incredibly enthusiastic and happy dude. And, glad to see him doing well. Just a little bit of a late bloomer. So yeah, that'll be mine.
All right, Jay. Anything in particular you're looking forward to here?
No. However, because that would be extremely boring. I see one fight. I'm not going to take it because I know that's the one you're going to pick, Ant. I hope I'm right. Instead, the pickings aren't slim because there's the potential for some silliness. In terms of ridiculous, messy fight on the card of the weekend, I think the ridiculous, messy fight of the weekend that's going to be under the radar is Jason Knight's coming back after a stint in bare knuckle, and he's fighting Bobby Moffett. That's a UFC prelim fight right there, and it's on the PFL card as a possible PFL does their showcase series where they say, "You ready for the next season?" As they put a guy who's literally under 500 on the card. Anyway, Jason Knight, Bobby Moffett has the potential for some silliness, and I feel like Tyler Treese has rubbed off me too much phrasing, is that he wants me to see the chaos in these fights. And I think that has the potential for more chaos than most of the other fights this weekend.
All right. Good choice there. You're probably right. I think this is the fight you knew I was going to highlight, because it's no secret that I am a mark for Kevin Lee, who will be making his return against Daniel Rodriguez. I just love this fight. Rodriguez is a guy who is all action, all in your face, and he is throwing strikes nonstop. The consequences be damned. Kevin Lee is no stranger to a barn burner himself. Obviously, he's someone who can get caught. So this is definitely not the optimal camp for Rodriguez. He's coming in on short notice. I think Sean Brady was supposed to be the original opponent, and that would have been a fantastic matchup.
So good.
Yeah, that's a great fight between him and Kevin Lee. But, an all-action replacement, I'll take it. And I think I'm just going to sit back and enjoy with a fresh can of beer. So that's going to be a good fight there. So let's go ahead and just wrap things up with giving some predictions for the main event of UFC on ESPN 30. This is an interesting one. Edson Barboza against Giga Chikadze. I mean, a kickboxer's delight here. Fellas, what are we feeling about this fight?
I mistakenly underestimated Barboza and wrote him off against Shane Burgos. And I just had to be reminded, you can count on one hand the people that have held their own in a straight kickboxing match with Edson Barboza. Like, period. He's 35. It feels like he's been in the UFC forever, because he has been in the UFC forever. Like, he and Charles Oliveira both arrived when they were like 20 years old, 15 years ago, and they've been here forever. He's not appreciably slowed, and I don't even know if I have a prediction. But I am leaning Barboza. He doesn't have the kind of wear and tear you would expect of a guy with some of the wars he's been in, and he is still just a sensational striker, one of the best strikers in MMA.
There's a phrase that we hate to hear, because it's been just driven into the ground and used and used and used again, and I'm going to use it. This fight, we're going to see that there are levels to this game. I really think I want to be wrong. I would be fine being wrong. There is no rooted, vested interest in my feelings in this matter. But I don't believe in Giga Chikadze at the high level. I saw what he did to Cub Swanson. Respect. The last person to put Cub Swanson away with strikes, who was it? It was Jose Aldo.
So yeah.
Way back then, where there's super double, triple flying knee. I don't know, like 3 or 4 knees he hit him with or something. Yeah, I'm still Barboza. The strength of schedule is, I can't think of an easy fight he's had in the last decade. Almost. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but in the last 5 years, his lightest challenge may be Makwan Amirkhani, who is an incredibly dangerous grappler. It's just he's not much on the feet. And Barboza said, "You're not going to take me down one time, and I'm going to kick you in the face a lot." Like everybody, Barboza has taken shots from the best fighters in the world, the Gaethjes and Khabibs and the Pettises and Fergusons. I can't think of many more fighters in the history of the sport that have fought a murderer's row for so long. We can go on things and go, wow, Anthony Pettis fought these 5 guys in a row. That's insane. But like every fighter that Barboza's fighting is a dangerous test for some reason. Dan Ige is not somebody to sleep on. He is a very underrated fighter, and he lost a razor close fight to him that I think he won. Just what he has done and what he has shown me is leagues above kicking Jamie Simmons in the head. And that's why I'm a lot stronger on my feeling that Barboza is going to say, okay, you kick me, I'll kick you back. You kick me in the body, I'm going to kick you 3 times in the body. The age difference, Barboza hasn't hit that age cliff yet. We saw in the Burgos fight 3 months ago, he's still got it in spades. Like the last shot he landed, that Burgos was out, and he didn't know he was out until he fell back and went, I don't know where I am right now. That impression that I have is going to be hard to remove. And I got Barboza by probably late second round stoppage, once Shikaze starts to get dragged into deep water and goes, okay, my tricks aren't working on him. But I'm telling you, boys, if this isn't fight of the night, we goofed. But I am all aboard this wagon.
Yeah, this should be an interesting one here. And I'm gonna side with Barboza. The experience says a lot. Also, the speed. I think that's a huge factor. Barboza is lightning quick. Chikaze is not a slouch in the speed department, but I think his success in striking is more so on the timing. Like he's incredible at timing the right shot. I don't know how. Like we know like the Conor McGregor's phrase said against Aldo, like timing beats speed or something of that nature. The problem is though, Barboza has the timing as well. So this isn't just a guy who's just blindly fast and nothing else. Like he's fast, he's strong, he's agile, he has good footwork. His boxing has greatly improved. He's comfortable fighting in all ranges now. And then on top of that, Chikaze is not going for a takedown. So the one thing that you can do to kind of stifle Barboza and make him hesitate and make him, think before he pulls the trigger, Chikaze's not going to do that. Like that would be, and if he tries it, there's no way in hell that it's going to be successful. It's just not. So a Barboza free of any grappling threat and with a ridiculous speed advantage, this is going to be a reminder to all the youngsters that the veteran still has it, and he is not going out quietly. So I think Barboza is going to steamroll this one. Should be an interesting fight.
Can I make a quick observation before we wrap? Do you remember when Yair Rodriguez fought Alex Caceres, and we were like, okay, this is going to be an interesting style matchup, but there's no way it could be a lot of fun. I see a lot of that. In that, I see they're going to flashy stuff, spinning stuff, flying stuff. It's going to be, you can do this, I can do whatever you can do, I can do better than you. That is how I'm telling you, if it is like that, I'm in, because the numbers line up. Like they have, this is courtesy of UFC stats, and obviously the sample sizes differ because of the experience for Barboza. Literally identical percentages in accuracy, within 1% difference of strike defense. Like, so whatever happens, let's get weird.
Yeah. Like for our entertainment value, that's what I want to happen. I want to see them go out there and just Shaw Brothers their way through the whole thing. Yeah. Yes. And that'll be exactly fun to look at. But if we're gonna do the smart fight, if we're gonna go in there and just win, then Barboza should have a fairly easy time out there. But fellas, that will do it for this edition of Unleashed. Great time having the show back on. I missed talking to you guys last week. So you can check out Ben and Jay on sherdog.com. They're always posting stuff, even when they're on vacation. A lot of stuff, Jay, a lot of work. Yeah. Chill out, take a break, take an actual break. And of course you can find me on MMA On Point. By the way, the piece that I was promising before, we just had a backlog with the editors. So it's finally up. It's been up for just under a week, I think. So go ahead and check that out about whether big fights exist outside of the UFC. So put a lot of work and research into that one. So I hope you guys enjoy it. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. So until next week, stay beautiful, stay positive, get FDA approved, and stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.